can't say.
John will be great. I love your comment last year. I don't know if I think I told you that, but I don't know. On when that one player got in trouble and should have suspended, and the league kind of, gave him like a $5,000 fine or something. And you said what should have been said, what everybody else was saying about, hey, listen, you can't, you gotta be straight up on all this stuff. You can't pick and choose who you're giving things to and what teams are getting penalized.
Yeah, the NHL bases are suspensions based on ratings and teams and popularity and stuff, and it shouldn't be that way.
Shouldn't be that way.
No, but if you put seats in our butts in the seats, they're not going to suspend you. So it is what it is, Yeah. What are you going to do?
Well, we're going to get going in just a few seconds, but I often get people asking me, what's it like here on campus? So we are face-to-face, we are wearing masks. And so on campus, we are all wearing masks, even in the cafeteria. But we're able to be at full density in our classrooms and in our labs. So it's hands-on, kind of back to as normal as we can be, given kind of the situation. So weather-wise, we're having beautiful weather, and I think I've already mentioned that. Enrollment's way up, and COVID is we don't have any hotspots kind of going on at this point. We had an update this morning, and everything's calm and cool. They're monitoring wastewater, they're monitoring tests, and so everything's looking good.
What do you guys do with the hockey team, Joe? Sorry to set you off. Do you guys do testing, or how does that work in the locker room? Yeah,
the policy right now that's been instituted, and I'm not sure, John, if this is per NCAA guidelines or if it's a league mandate minimum, but it is, if you are vaccinated, you don't need to be tested.
Okay.
If you are unvaccinated, you have to be tested weekly. It might even be daily. It might be the 6 tests. I'm not sure exactly what it is right now, but you have to be tested in that regard. So it's a little interesting. We could talk a lot about that, but we won't. But
I was gonna say, have you ever had that test? I mean, having had that
today,
once,
I had it today.
Oh my goodness.
Today. And just to be full disclosure, I'm in the vaccination stage, but still had to be tested. So.
Well, good. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a couple of preamble slides, and then I'll get that all out of the way so we can focus on hockey tonight. And I want to share a Zoom tip. So if you want to see Joe's handsome face, so hover on Joe, and then there'll be little buttons to the side, and you can click the pin to first screen, and then you will always see Joe, and you will never see me. And so you can fool around with pinning if you want to not, if you want to kind of eliminate me out of the picture, which would be fine. So I am going to share screen and do a very small slide deck, and then I will stop sharing so that we can talk about hockey. All right. So this is the official kind of pre-show. So I always forget to introduce what we are and what we're doing. So I'm going to remember that this night. My name is Janet Callahan. I'm Dean of the College of Engineering, and we are at Michigan Tech. This is Husky Bites, which is a live Zoom webinar that we do Monday nights at 6. You are able to ask questions using the Q&A feature of Zoom. And these are also broadcast via Facebook Live. And this evening, as you know, we're going to have 2 special guests, Michigan Tech's hockey coach, Joe Shawhan, as well as Michigan Tech alumnus and famous hockey player, John Scott. And so just flashing very quickly through these, if you ever missed one of these, you can see an old recording by going to our website, mtu.edu/Husky Bites. And there you go. So we have a special group of visitors with us potentially tonight who are teachers of those of our children who are in K through 12. And so if you are joining us as an educator, I want you to know that you can earn professional development credits by communicating with us. So send us an email to engineering@mtu.edu, and you can sign up directly on the website I mentioned earlier. So there's two things you can do. There's a professional learning community, and there's also just sketches. You get one sketch for every Husky Bite you attend. And a sketch is a special word for a continuing ed credit in Michigan. But we also have educators in other states doing this as well. So I won't have a concluding slide, so I do want to introduce the next week's speaker, who is John Gerke, who is a professor in GMES, our Department of Geological and Mining Engineering and Sciences. And Joe, I believe you know John.
I do. We grew up together. He's, I believe, 1 year older than Laura and I, and 1 grade ahead of me. But I've known him since we were both very, very young.
Well, you'll have to join us next week because I think he would love to see you. But he'll be talking about kind of water in the Keweenaw, which is apparently tricky to find. So I'm going to show slides because Joe is not. So this is the men's kind of ice hockey a leadership team, including, of course, Joe, who will be introduced in a moment by John, Chris Brooks and Tyler Shalas, the assistant coaches, Max, the director of hockey operations, Jamie, a volunteer and goaltending coach, and then we have two student managers, Anthony and Bradley. So thank you in advance, team, for your work for the year. And then, sorry, I'm going to slide quickly through this, but I do want to show you the 2021-22 hockey roster. And Joe, if you ever want to flip back to this, I can share slides again. So this is page 1 of the hockey roster, and then this is page 2. So welcome, team, to Michigan Tech. I'm looking forward. I have my hockey season tickets already purchased and looking forward to it. So with this, I am going to introduce John, who's then going to introduce our head coach, Joe. So it's my pleasure this evening to introduce John Scott, who hardly needs to be introduced at all. John is, first of all, an athlete. I looked up your height, John, today after somebody last week was talking about how he stood next to you. And he felt like he was a child because he kind of come up to your chest or something. And the man I was talking to was not a small person. John's a Canadian former professional ice hockey defenseman winger. After playing for us at Michigan Tech, he played professionally for 10 years between 2006 and 2016 and saw lots of National Hockey League action with the Minnesota Wild, the Chicago Blackhawks, the New York Rangers, the San Jose Sharks, Buffalo Sabres, Arizona Coyotes, and the Montreal Canadiens. And then during this decade, somehow, astonishingly, he also completed his BS in mechanical engineering degree here at Michigan Tech. And he was trained and mentored here by former Huskies hockey coach, Ian Kelly. I was reading about you today in Heart of a Husky, and I'm going to quote Ian here. He had a lot of things other players didn't, plus a mean streak that would serve him well at the professional level. A good guy to have on your side. I guess you gained some enforcer notoriety while you were playing here at Michigan Tech. A very proud father of 6 girls, or a half dozen, I should say. He's married to another Husky, Danielle, who also earned her degree here, but this degree was in biomedical engineering. And among many other things that John does, he has a podcast, which is at dropping_loves, which I have up here shown, and you can also follow him on Twitter. But this podcast is the official podcast of hockeyfights.com. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it completely over to you, John, to take it from here.
Wow, your intro was a lot better than what I have for Joe. Joe Shawhan enters his 5th season as the Michigan Tech head hockey coach. Before that, he spent 3 seasons as the assistant coach. Ever since he arrived at Michigan Tech, the men's hockey team has just been super successful. He's won the division many times, made the playoffs many, many times. Before that, he was coaching in the North American Hockey League against a upstart John Scott, and he was coaching for what was the team? The Sioux Indians.
That's right, yeah.
If I'm not correct. Some of his former players gave him such high accolades when he took the Michigan Tech job. Future Hall of Famer, my former teammate Ryan Miller said Michigan Tech is getting a guy who really cares about his players and prides himself in watching them develop into their full potential. That is something that is really important at the college level. That's Ryan Miller, all-time winningest goaltender in the USA and future Hall of Famer, like I said. So Joe Shawhan, everybody. Wow. There we go. And off
Heard it
we
all the
go.
way here.
All right, you guys have already broken a record. We've got more attendees than we've ever had, I believe.
All right, let's call it a day then. Let's go out with up on a high note.
Am I supposed to talk now?
Well, I was gonna say, so Joe, what are your thoughts on the team for the year?
Well, I think it's we're gonna have a good team. I want to thank John. As John mentioned, I remember all of us go through an evolution. I remember John going through an evolution. He was playing for the Chicago Freeze and was a big, powerful, intimidating power forward for them that also had a good degree of skill. And then as things evolve, as so many players evolve, he had to find his niche in the National Hockey League as a power forward that kept the other team honest and was able to allow his teammates not to be taken advantage of and things of that nature. Everybody, even in this community, a real tribute to John is that they speak of John the person every bit as much as they speak of John the player, and that to even back when he was younger, the individual is what makes him, and he's tremendous guy to be around, and I enjoy hearing the stories here, the things he did in the area here that and what kind of a teammate he was, and you know, it says a lot. He was the MVP of the All-Star game his last year. The NHL All-Star game was carried off the ice, and I don't know where it's at now, but I do believe they were casting for a Disney movie of your story. And I mean, when you think about that, it gives you goosebumps. So really, you know, I'm just kind of here. I really want to hear John and hear what you know, what he has to say, because he's you know, he's done a lot for our school. And really at this point, you know, a lot of the people don't remember the Mike Zukes, the Tony Espositos, but everybody right now still remembers John Scott.
What a veteran move by you, trying to pass the buck on to me, Joe. That's very smart of you. I think that's very smart. Well, no, I will say this on Michigan Tech is it does form you. Obviously, I had some ups, I had some downs at Michigan Tech. It did form me as a person. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. You get to kind of you have the time and space to do that. You know, you're not bombarded by all the glitz and glamour of a big city like everybody thinks you want from a college career and experience. It's just the town is Michigan Tech, you know, Houghton, Michigan, Hancock, Michigan. Everybody is rooting for you. Everybody's pulling for you. So you don't want to let those people down. So all of my success and all of like myself as a man, I think that stems from Michigan Tech. Because when I went there, I was a cocky 18-year-old who thought I had the world by the cojones, and I left very humbled, very hardworking, very just try to be an honest person and, you know, punch in, punch out. And I think a lot of that has to do with my coaches, my teachers, and just the community as a whole, because you kind of feel that when you walk around town, when people see you. Even though our team was garbage when I was there, we were bad, and the fans still showed up. Like they wanted to support us. They knew we couldn't compete with the Minnesotas, the Wisconsins of the world. And that's why it's so gratifying to me to see what Joe's done for the team since he's been there. Like Michigan Tech is a destination now for players. And it's kind of neat to see, because when I was there, it was like, we were scratching the bottom of the barrel to try to get recruits. Like I was nobody before I came to Tech, and now you're getting the creme de la creme. So my question for you, Joe, is how, from when you first came there 8 years ago to now, has recruiting been easier because of the success you have, or do you still have to grind to find these top tier players?
Oh no, it's a grind. It's a grind. And you're, you know, with the change of leagues, that's made it quite a bit different, because so much, you know, is based on people today is based on perception, not the things that you're saying. It's based on perception, and the sell is that that the league is not the Big Ten, is not, you know, another league or so, the NCHC. It's that and for that reason, we're having a new league this year, because administratively, there were schools within our league in the WCHA that were really, all of us, including us, that were suffering a cost of not having of one game make or breaking our season, because we had a few teams in our league that were perennially causing danger to pairwise because it's all mathematically based. So we would play a team, and you play them 4 times a year. And if you're sitting at 17 in the pairwise and the top 16 get in, theoretically, one loss, and then you have some strategic interleague play that does comparisons for common opponents and things, is devastating. And there's teams that have missed the national tournament by 0.001 of a percentage point for that very reason, for some things that were completely out of teams' control, such as strength of schedule. When you're playing 28 games against with a quarter of that potentially being annually against the strength of schedule that doesn't enhance you at all. There's literally conferences where they just want to go 500 or just under 500 in their league play, and then play the best team in another conference that they feel strongly they'll beat, just for the mathematical portion, hoping that at some point that team in another conference will upset or steal a game from somebody else that will throw the whole comparison things out of whack. So we have a new league basically for that reason. I think there was kind of discussion on how responsibly to upgrade the league and to really put things in place to upgrade the whole level instead of trying to bring down the level, because the goal is here at Michigan Tech, and one of the things that I enjoy most about it is they do want to win championships. They're still living kind of at times in the 70s, the 75 championship and things like that. And the expectation here is different than, as you know, John, but it's different in what you said. You're playing against the North Dakotas, you're playing against the Minnesotas, you're playing against Boston University, Boston College, Michigan, those teams, and the expectation is to beat them. And it's really not a concern, or people really don't want to hear an unfair advantage one way or another. They just want you to compete and to do well. So I like that challenge. That's maybe the primary reason I came here, was that challenge and the community and the people. And it's been good. I hit it at the right time. I think I was strategic in that. I was asked a few times to come over here and work. I knew what they had, I knew where they were at. I knew the potential of the group. It was very clear in our discussions, mine with Mel Pearson, who's now in Michigan, who did a tremendous job here, what he wanted out of me. And I was able to bring that. And immediately we had, got to #1 in the country, and we made the national tournament for the first time in some 30 years or 40 years or something like that, and won the McNaughton Cup for the first time in that same period. And we've won the GLI, we've made the national tournament a number of times, and we've knocked on the door several other times. So it's been a really good run. And again, I enjoy the expectations and the community pride. And you hit one thing that's really, John, that's really so overlooked, or could be overlooked, is that Michigan Tech is the community. We have a homecoming at Michigan Tech, and it is the homecoming for the whole Keweenaw Peninsula. We have a winter carnival, and it's the same. And there's not a differentiation between Michigan Tech and the area. They're synonymous, and that's a great thing as well.
So just touching on recruiting, when I was there, it was mostly guys from Michigan and then a handful of guys from out west. When I look at your roster now, you have guys from Australia, Florida, Sweden, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Alberta, like all over the world, Tennessee. How do you get all these players? What's the process in scouting? Because it used to be you go to Minnesota, you go to Michigan, and then maybe you get a couple, guys from out west. What do you guys do?
Well, for one, we realize that we're fooling ourselves if we think we're going to in certain areas out recruit other teams just by going in blind and thinking that we're gonna steal one from the Gophers in Minneapolis, or from some, we understand that. So a priority I've made is to spend a considerable amount of time in the transition to younger recruits, not to recruit, but to get a book and start learning about those players and start tracking and narrowing it down from there, instead of trying to find 20-year-olds every year that are going to come in and elevate your team and be difference makers. I want to know as much as we can about them prior to that decision time. And then when we get absolutely certain, whenever that is, then we go after we make the call on them. And when we do that, we honor it. So instead of throwing, like some people are able to do, throw a blanket over a vast number of people and then openly tell them, now we're expecting you are right now in the top 30 in your age group in the country. We're expecting you to maintain that. You keep that end of the bargain. We'll keep our end of the bargain. We can't play the game that way. If I tell somebody that, they're going to say, get bent. I can find 50 other schools in this country that won't say that to me. Whether or not they're going to honor it that way, they won't say that. So we have a pretty good, we can try to get a great feel for young players and make sure that they continue to trend when they get into the next level, see how they dominate that level. And at some point we have to say, okay, we feel that they're at the point where it's going to transition, it's going to translate well when they get up to us, and then we make the call. But first and foremost, to me, people say it all the time, but I really live by a thing called the John Wooden Pyramid of Success. I think it's a great formula. I encourage anybody to look at it if they haven't already. It should be a class that's offered, but it's a pyramid of blocks that are really the bottom two layers of it are foundational. They have nothing to do with athletics. They have completely to do with character traits and the type of person that you are. And I look, we talk about that as a team. We show videos on each one of the blocks, movie clips, whatever, to illustrate what we're trying to get at. And it's kind of interesting this year. When you get to the top, the very top of that pyramid is competitive greatness, which is your ability to be your best when your best is needed, which is what we're all trying to do, be our best. And there's a lot that goes into that, but the foundation is character. But my example this year, interesting, was Secretariat. If you watch what that horse accomplished and you hear the trainers and things that handled that horse and how it didn't even want to be touched after a race it lost, after a race Secretariat lost, didn't even want to be touched, sat in the back of the stall, was left alone. And then every time that horse lost in its career, it came out and broke a track record the next race. Like there was something innate,
Oh my gosh,
great about the competitiveness of that athlete. And so, Kobe Bryant fits up in there. There's people that fit up into that, but that's the pinnacle. And I really use, I just think you have to have culture. You have to have character. You have to, what I was excited about talking to this group is you really have to be based on what really is and not what, and not perception. You have to be based on, everything, every action has some sort of an effect, regardless of how small it is. Every action has some sort of effect. And that's what we try to get across to our athletes, that, I'm the farthest from being perfect, but you have to strive for that and strive to get better all the time. And things that happen do follow natural laws, and that's what I love about athletics. And that's why I was excited about this group tonight, because I can no longer get down and do 300 push-ups right now. I just can't, I wouldn't be able to do it, whether I could at one time or not, because I can't do it. And I can't talk my way into it. I'm in the 1%, or I'm in the 99% that couldn't drop the gloves with John Scott and even hope I'm going to come out of that alive. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. So to pretend that you can do those things, there's a lot that goes into getting yourself to the point where John Scott got himself. And it says a lot that he got his engineering degree while he was being a National Hockey League player. You think about that. Think of he had to look in the lineup every night as to who he was facing, knowing that there was some nuclear guy on the other side that may be in the lineup for John Scott. There was a guy in there in that lineup called up for the minors or whatever to try to neutralize John Scott so they could neutralize his teammates. And living that way and being able to keep your personal life and your studies and things in perspective, it's the dynamic of it is incredible. So that's the individuals we have here. That's the individuals we have to recruit to this area. And there's something innately precious about, Michigan Tech, from what I know of, is compared to the MITs, is compared to the major engineering schools in the world. The difference is you're not going to Boston, to the city. You're coming up here where you're integrated into the elements, and you need to enjoy the elements. And it takes a special person. One of the first things I say to recruits, we had one this weekend in here, and I said, if you like the big city, this is the wrong spot. I'm gonna tell you right now, his dad was right there. This is the wrong spot. But if you want to be around people that are passionate about what you're passionate about, this is the right spot for you. And I will guarantee that you'll get a degree coming out of here second to none in the entire world.
I remember my visit. I came and I did the whole tour of the Copper Country, and it was beautiful. And the guys took me around. They took me for lunch, and one of the vets, he said, "You got a girlfriend, John?" I was like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Well, you should probably get one before you come up to campus." And obviously that was wrong.
I think it's changed. Yeah, you met your wife here. I think it's.
Well, I met my wife at Tech. She's beautiful. Yeah, I just thought that was funny. And then, yeah, I get to campus and I was totally wrong. There was girls and it was great and it was fun. But yeah, I just thought that was funny. It's the one thing I remember from my visit. I was just like, oh, interesting. But now going back on Seabiscuit and knowing your team and, perseverance and stuff, I've always found it fascinating with coaches. Do you coach the same way every year? Do you have a formula?
No.
Do you have a strategy, or do you go into camp? You start in a little less than a month at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Are you going in there? You're having training camp. Can you tell if you have like just a bunch of sea biscuits who just like to go and score fast paced, or can you mold your, strategy around your team? It's like, okay, maybe we don't have the scoring threats like we did last year. We got to be a little more defensive, a little more, sound in our own zone. How do you go about that process? And do you change from year to year?
Yeah, we change week to week. We change day to day. We change day to day. And, I will say, no one reinvents the wheel in life. Very few people are fortunate enough to be the innovators and the world changers. And I'm certainly not one of them. But I was fortunate. I think I do have the ability to learn. And I think I do have the ability to apply common sense. I've never been one to be told to do something just to be told to do something and to buy into it. I need to understand it and understand why. So we really, my staff laughs at me all the time. I tell our guys, learn to fish, man. Because we, the old saying, give a guy a fish, feed him for a day, teach him to fish, feed him for a lifetime. Teach the guys the game, teach them how to think on their own, and don't program them to make them robots. And what you get with that in the long run is now they're integrating themselves into your plan and what you can do night to night, and shift to shift. Hey, they'll come in, coach, on the power play breakout, this is what I'm seeing. I think if we try this, all right, get with your guys, make it work, and with an understanding. And it's that's what makes you prideful in this game. Is the cat and mouse is one thing, but when the team is managing the team, that's the ultimate goal you're trying to get to every year. So we change based on personnel. We change all the time. Now, the raw philosophies that I have, and where I was getting at before, is I was mentored by some tremendous coaches. I started out with a very innovative coach, way ahead of his time in certain categories, a guy by the name of Frank Anselone, and he led us to the first national championship at Lake Superior. Then he was followed up by another tremendously innovative coach and tactician, Jeff Jackson. So I was able to learn and be mentored by Jeff. Then in going to work with it, I was able to work with Walt Kyle, who's one of the premier top coaches in all of USA Hockey. He's coached the Olympic team. He's coached the World Junior team several times. He's coached in the National Hockey League. So I got another flavor and another discipline. And these are all strong-willed individuals. These are all strong-minded, hockey people. So I was able to, really formulate my thoughts. And then coming here, seeing a completely different side with Mel, who's a tremendous coach in his own right. He's done a great job now in Michigan. He's been part of success wherever he's been. So I think the four people I've really worked with, I think I've been mentored and taught the right way, that there are no shortcuts. I'll give you an example, John. You come here, I would probably say that when they brought you here, they probably brought you to a game, to see a game and see the crowd like that. We would much rather bring a player in on Monday and Tuesday and let them see the grind. Let them see, leave them home to play with their junior teams. Let them see what we do in the weight room on Monday, and what we do on the ice on Monday, and what we do on Tuesday, and then have our leaders, when they're with them afterwards, just kind of gauge their reaction. Like, if a guy says, "Do you do that every day?" That must be terrible. Or if they say, "I like that. That's what I really need." And then they can kind of help you and say, he's one of us or he's not. And that kind of helps the legacy of what you're trying to do, which is, in the base of the pyramid. Do they have the work ethic? Do they have the initiative? Do they have the alertness and intentness? The things, do they have to be guided to everything, or are they willing to do things on their own when no one's watching, So that's all engaged in recruiting. That's all engaged in how we adjust and how we adapt, but we literally will completely change from a shift to a shift in what we're doing. There's nothing that's really the same in what we do from team to team that we play. And that's really, that preparation has come from the people I'm fortunate enough to be around and I fortunate enough to be around is an understatement. When you're with, Lake Superior, who had more players sign National Hockey League contracts than any team in the country during that era, and won 3 national championships and was in the national title game 3 years in a row, losing 1 to Maine on an incredible comeback by Maine in the third period. We were up 4-2. So a lot of fun things.
Yeah, I live right next door to Dallas Drake, so he reminds me constantly about Lake Superior State. But touching on your coaches, how do you go about picking those guys? Because I played with Tyler Shalast. I know Jamie Phillips is a former goaltender there. How do you get your staff to buy into what you're preaching?
Well, the first thing you look for is passion. I think whatever anybody does, you don't want someone to get into something. I mean, John, you could have got into so many things. You have an engineering degree, but you're still playing your passion. You're doing it right now with us. You're taking the time to do it right now with us and to spend time with us. So I want people that are following the passion. So when they come to work, it's not a job. I want people that will confront me for sure. I want them to have, again, like within our game, philosophically, the same innate structure in their mind to some degree, but within that, everything's on the table. Throw it on the wall and let's banter it and let's figure out if that fits into our system and fits into the way that we want to play with the personnel we have at that given time, or if it's might be too early for them, for a certain group or certain individuals, or some people can try it, but you don't, enable the whole group. You got to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, but first you got to get the right people on the bus, all the old adages. So with the staff, that's what I want. Passion and the ability to work with others being number one, the intelligence and the open-mindedness, because that's really how we try to operate here, with constant discussion. And all I ask of them is sell it to me. And then after that, I don't really care. It's not important to me what you know. It's important to those guys in that room what you know. So you're not teaching me, show me what you're thinking. Let's all discuss it. We like it. Now go in there and sell it to them. You've put the time and work into it. You deserve to develop as a coach. Go sell it to them. I'm really excited this year.
I was going to say, I wanted to chime in. That's exactly what we look for in faculty members here at Georgia Tech, or Michigan Tech, excuse me. People who will follow their passion. and ability to work well with others. So that's interesting. So John, there are questions already out there in the Q&A. Feel free to look at them and answer any of them. And
Oh, where do I find the questions? I don't even know.
all right, so one of the bottom
Oh,
tabs
there we
is
go.
Q&A.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. And you pick and choose whatever you want, and just if you want to answer it live, click the answer live tab.
John, if I could add one thing though, I was going to go on. You asked me about coaches, and I wanted to just mention, I added Tyler Shalas this year to our staff, a former teammate of yours. You know Tyler, you know Tyler's been through a lot in his life. I've never met anybody with more work ethic, more desire, more love for this school and for the community, more pride in it. He's done kind of like all of us have done. He's paid his dues, he's worked his way. He was a strength trainer, came back, got his master's degree, did what he had to do, and still his passion for the game oozes out. And we really, you talk about recruiting, we really needed to rekindle our presence in the Albertas and in the British Columbias, in the Western Canada. And Tyler, having been born in Edmonton and being raised in Kelowna, British Columbia, we're already seeing dividends to that connection. And it's going to really help our team, because we have Chris, who's well connected. He actually has a son, Chris Brooks, playing in the USHL right now. So just by sheer love of family, he's going to be following that. He's going to be watching game after game after game, even after the fact, to watch his son play. So we're going to see a lot of players in that regards. And then with Tyler's driving connections out west, that broadens our scope and is going to help us a lot.
Yes. All right. We got a question from Dave Besson in here. It says, how does the GLI showcase with no champion change the GLI motivation this year? Which I think is a terrible move to change the whole GLI. I don't know if that's because of the Red Wings not letting them use the Little Caesars rink, but it's kind of puts a damper on the whole GLI, in my opinion. He also asks, is it tougher to play at Yost and then Munn in their barns? And does it help as much with recruiting or tournament experience?
There's no easy answer to this. The effort was I'm giving you my opinion now. I know a lot of what went into it. The effort was to make the best of a terrible situation. Presently, coming out of COVID with the restrictions on the facility, and trying to line up another facility quickly to be able to make sure we had this thing encompassed, it would have been a helter-skelter endeavor. And so the best thing is to try to protect the teams so that you don't lose those 2 games on your schedule, because if you cancel the whole thing or cancel those games out, someone could be left out without 2 games that was expecting to play. And the kids want to play, the players want to play. So then how do you do it? Do you bring, what I've heard so many times, which is, to me, is a great idea. Well, why didn't you host it up here? Why didn't you play it up here and have Michigan Tech be the host and have the 4 teams come up here? And that's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. So the best possible solution was with the 3 teams, Michigan State, and Western being in that area, to try to come up with something that worked. And they came up with us playing both Michigan and Michigan State, Western Michigan playing both Michigan and Michigan State, Michigan and Michigan State not having to play each other because they already played each other so many times during the year in their league play, and basically get the games in. Now, I'm happy that we're playing them because I personally really like our hockey team. We tell our guys that we're not going to duck anybody, and we're going to give them every opportunity to get into a national tournament. With all the boasting and everything that's going on with those teams and with the Big Ten, we want to get on the ice and give ourselves a chance to compete with them. And if we have some success, that will go a long way for us to get into the national tournament, which is our ultimate goal. So the intention, the full intention, is to have this restored in a year.
Okay.
With time of how to restore it, will it be able to be in the format it was? I've heard another thing, John, which is, and I appreciate that question by the individual. I've heard where there's teams that don't want to play or want to avoid the they call it, what do they call it? Well, it's 3-3, right? Because the championship, the arena people want to have that to maximize their revenue, to have the college semifinal and final for the GLI in earlier, and then have the Red Wings play that night. And that maximizes their earnings and things that day. There's a thought, I think, that was something that wasn't that popular. But in contradiction to that, I've had many people tell me that they made that trip just for that, because they could package the GLI tickets together with a Red Wing ticket. So it may inconvenience us if we're not in the championship game and we have to play an 11 o'clock game in the morning. Who wants to play 11 o'clock? It may be an inconvenience to us, but if the people are still going to the game, I'll get up and play at 6 in the morning. Like if it means getting on the ice and competing and giving the people what they want, we'll play anytime. So we'll see how that all is going to shake out. But I know the intent is not the reason to do this is so the tournament kept going, to honor John McGinnis.
Okay.
And the fine tournament that he started.
I will say I actually got the privilege, I should say, when I was in the NHL to play after the 2 games. And as an NHL guy, you're like, oh, you don't get a pregame skate. You don't get to go to the rink. Everything's kind of out of whack. The ice holds up remarkably well. I was surprised how good the ice held up in the third game and in the third day. So it doesn't affect the ice. The NHL guys actually get a kick of it a little bit to see all the college guys bounce around. So I hope they get back to it. Like you said, I hope it gets back to normal. The GLI is just, you always, as soon as the season's out, you always gear up for the GLI. It's just such a great tournament. You mentioned, opponents. Do you have any say from year to year who your out of conference opponents can be? Can you say, well, gosh, I want to go play this team?
Yeah, I'm expected to.
That's okay, good.
That's part of my job responsibility. And we like it that way because we don't get as scientific as many teams do. We just want to play the best available. Like this year, our non-conference, University of Wisconsin, Big Ten. Notre Dame's coming in. It's Notre Dame. We're playing Michigan and Michigan State. We're going out to Clarkson, who's always 1 or 2 in Hockey East and always a national tournament team. So if we're successful in our non-conference, we feel that we're at the stage that we're going to, with the shift to the new CCHA, if we can be competitive within the CCHA and have a really good non-conference, we feel we'll be in a good position to compete for an opportunity to get in the national tournament as an at-large, not having to win the league title, which is what our goal is, but as an at-large. And I think most teams in our league feel that way. Mankato's playing the North Dakotas, and they got another big one on their schedule, Providence. They're playing Providence early. So our league is following what we believe will get our teams in the national tournament.
So can you comment on the incoming freshmen, what you think of this year's class?
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. The one thing about it is that when I took the job here, we were in a real flux. And I'm not going to beat that up, but we were in a real flux as far as our roster. There was a tremendous turnover. The cycle was wrong at the time. And for if you're trying to manage classes and things like that. So we feel that we're at the point now where we are not dependent on and really looking forward. We're not hoping and praying that our freshmen have to come in and impact, because that's a dangerous slope on doing that, because it puts a lot of pressure on those freshmen development. And it puts a lot of pressure on us in our ability to develop, because when you're gifting players ice time without them fully being vetted in their abilities, then, hey, this is good enough. They don't get that innate desire to learn and get better. Similar with engineering, you can't, a person can go into a professor and say, how do you think I'm doing? And professor should be looking at him saying, how you're doing. You're failing your tests. You're not doing your assignments. I'm not going to pass you. You know what I mean? And that's how it really has to be. It can't be, nothing can be a gift. So we're at that stage where if a freshman's in the lineup this year, they're gonna have earned it. They're gonna be really good players and prepared players. And I do think we have a few that can be that way. But with the COVID and the players getting another year, we were able to get back the players we wanted to get back. that got another year, even though the ones that were seniors last year. And I think we're in a really good place right now.
So you mentioned kids flunking out. Are you like a power Southern football team? You just throw the grades away and let the boys play, and they get their classes taken for them by other students? Or the players go to class, right, Joe? It's a part of the deal.
You were here. You're telling me, did you go to class?
Oh man, yeah, it was brutal. It was absolutely.
I mean,
it's funny
you got your
hearing
degree
stories.
afterwards. Did someone do your engineering work for you?
No, it's funny hearing stories of other teams and other conferences, because I meet them along the way, and it's like, man, how did you survive at Tech? Because it's just brutal. I was like taking tests on the road and this and that. So how important is the academics? Where do you find time? Because playing collegiate hockey, collegiate athletics at any level, it's a full-time job. And so how do you shoehorn in the academic side of it?
Well, we constantly monitor. We have some extremely capable compliance people. We even have a sports psychologist on staff now. I don't know if that's the title, but someone that's just there for the mental side of it, for campus life and also just for athletics. So they work at it. They get tutoring when it's needed. We're able to help them in those ways with getting them tutoring, but they have to do the work. And that's part of what goes into them getting on campus. And the NCAA helps out in some degree with that too, because it changes and evolves all the time with the core course requirements, upping the grade point requirements, upping the ACT or SAT requirements, making sure that progress towards degree is in place. These are all NCAA mandates that after your first year, you have to have completed 20% of your degree. You have to have declared a degree and have 20% done. Then sophomore year 40, after junior year 60. So they're doing things to make sure that they help to make sure that kids aren't just coming in and taking all freshman level courses for 4 years. And the expectations from our school are that students graduate. They help people. You may not have needed it with your salary in the NHL and things like that, but university helps athletes. They want them graduating. And that's a great thing, that to be able to look a parent in the eye and say, if your son does the job now, and I'm just not speaking by son in hockey, Division I men's hockey. If your son does the job, and we want, your son will get a degree. If not, it's on him that he didn't want the degree. Everything will be done when he's here and when he's gone to help him get the degree.
Well, and I just want to chime in and just kind of mention that in general, some of our very best students are athletes. I think athletes have learned really early on about time management. They've learned that rest is important to take care of their bodies, and they're taking care of every precious minute of their day. And yes, if you don't go to class, you're not going to pass anything. So we're going to wrap it up at 6:45 this evening. So that leaves us, I think, time for one more question. And there's so many questions out there. John, do you want to pull one of them out?
Why don't you take the honors, Jan? I'm just going to sit back and let you pick out the lucky winner for Joe to answer a question.
Well, and I think looking forward, what do you think about, there's a question that says, please talk about getting ready for this season. What has changed, if anything, and what should we be looking forward to this year?
Well, that's the part where we really have to be creative because of restrictions and things that are in place for what you can do up till a certain time when your season is actually started and declared. So it's not like you can just go full bore and get right into it. So you have to be creative in maximizing your preparation and your teaching, and which is a good thing, I think, for our sport versus football or something like that, because these kids can get into their classes to some degree without travel and all those things till October starts. So we do a lot of video, a lot of video teaching. We have a good bank of that, and we do a lot of one-on-one discussions, but really what I try to do is, as you can see a little bit, is I'm kind of analgetic in the sense that I try to, it's just common sense stuff. It's just common sense. We're not trying to create robots. We're trying to put common sense to the sport. Does it make sense to protect the front of your net more than something else? So let's start with the front of the net. Is it most important from that point on? What's the next most important part that we have to defend and be able to dominate? The middle of the ice, the critical ice area. So, philosophy is what we're trying to teach the players, and in a lot of ways let them figure the rest out.
So there's a lot of thank yous out there in the Q&A. I just want to relay those. There's a question from Thomas. Can I stream the Husky hockey games? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Yeah, Flow Hockey. You can go to our website and Flow Hockey, and our league, the new league, is doing a lot to really enhance that. We're phasing in mandated lighting procedures so games can be televised, because they're working on contracts. It's one of the big things that we want to get that that popularity out. So they're to have like TSN or somebody in Canada doing games, NHL Network doing some games from our league. So there's a lot going into upping the whole experience of the Flow Hockey experience.
Well, and then just lots and lots of thanks, like from Mike. Thanks to Joe, John, and Janet. Husky pride from this alumni and father of an alumni. So, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure having you as our kind of kickoff for the season. It has been wonderful to get you a little more, John, and to meet you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've had a record-breaking attendance this evening. And any last remarks from the Jays?
Just good luck, Joe. Go Tech, go.
Yeah, I this went by way too fast. I'd be glad to do it any time again if you want to do this again.
I would, we'll probably call on you next year. Thanks for volunteering, Joe.
Thanks.
I said that last year, Joe, and look where I'm at.
Yeah, I know. Well,
It's great to see you, John. It's great to see you.
Likewise, my
Thank
friend.
you.
Good luck this year.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next week.